Greetings and welcome back to the Old Ways Rising Farm YouTube channel for a tale of three hides. Now these are three hides that were from big old tough sinewy bucks. And these three hides fought me and fought me and fought me and fought me and fought me. I started tanning these a couple years ago and they came out really hard and crunchy. I just set them aside. And then I re-smoked them and re-softened them, and they still came out crunchy, so I set them aside. And then a little while ago, I got a comment on one of my videos from a user of one of my troubleshooting videos, troubleshooting Buckskin videos. And a viewer popped in a comment that this person liked to make a tea from oak leaves when they got really, really hard, tough hides. And I thought, that is a high chance of success. You've got tannic acid. It's going to help get in and denature the protein fibers and keep them from sticking to the glycoproteins. But it's going to be weaker than a bark tea, which would make a tough leather. I want to try that on these. So some more time elapsed until I had the chance to do it. But here over the last couple of weeks, and in the little corners and pockets of time that I've had, I've done an experiment with these. I did one a while ago, the one where I re-smoked and re-softened and rolled in towels and it still came out crunchy. And I left that one be. I'll show it to you at the end as a comparison, as sort of a control. And then I did one in a tea made from northern red oak, Quercus rubra, leaves, and one in a tea made from staghorn sumac, Rhus typhina, leaf tea. And the spoiler is it worked really, really well, but I'd love to show you the process, how I collected the materials, made the tea, worked with the hides, and then we'll compare all three hides, two different species of high tannin leaf tea, and the just rolled in a wet towel and stretched back out methods. It's really interesting. I'm so happy that we're getting a community around this channel that's sharing information like this, and I hope that you'll join us. So I'm standing here beside this red oak. It's got some branches that are hanging low that need to be pruned away anyway. And we're going to do this experiment. I have three hides that are in this condition, so we can try it a couple of times. And I'm going to try it with this oak. I'm also going to try it with staghorn sumac. We'll document the process and we'll see how it goes, and we'll see if it saves these really nice thick hides for garment work, or if they end up being moccasins. We'll see. Now, this is the second plant with which we're going to experiment in this little trial on softening some stubborn hides. This is staghorn sumac, Rhus typhina. This is the largest of the species of Rhus that we have here in the east, but it's certainly not the only one that can be used for tanning. The leaves of this guy were in the past used a lot for tanning hides just direct, much the same way oak bark was and hemlock bark was. Now, this is not the only species here in the east. The others do have high tannin contents as well, but this is the one that's abundant in my area, and it's the tallest. Like, I mean, you can see I'm pointing the camera up, right? It's kind of hard for me to find a branch to pick some leaves from here right at the moment, so I'm going to have to go around and get what I can. But this genus does grow pretty much from coast to coast, not in every habitat, but it is very widely distributed. The only one that you have to watch is the poison sumac, which has white berries and lives in swamps, and that will give you a poison ivy or poison oak-like rash. I've honestly never seen it in the wild. It's pretty darn rare, but this is the one that has the red berries, and it's too early in the year right now for them, but you can maybe just kind of make out at some of the tips, like right around there, that there are a few berry skeletons hanging on from last year. So these get the big tall berry cones. What you would mix it up with would be walnut, has a very similar leaf, and Ailanthus altissima has a very similar leaf, both of which are readily distinguished by their smell. Walnut just has a walnut smell, for lack of a better description, and the ailanthus smell, a lot of people compare it to like really badly rancid peanut butter. It just smells rank. Whereas the Rhus leaves smell just sweet and nice. So they're very easy to distinguish from the other lookalikes. Now, it's not like you're going to hurt yourself with tanning the way you would if you're harvesting something to eat. But the ailanthus, I don't know whether it has much tannin content at all, so it just wouldn't work. The walnut probably would work just as well as this would, but its leaves produce a strong dye, and I'm not looking to dye the hides. I'm hoping that they all come out a nice natural, kind of smoke color, so that I can use them in conjunction with other smoked hides. But, a lot of people will dye buckskin with hemlock or with hemlock bark or with walnut hulls or other things like that. So we're looking for a low dye content tannin source, but the high dye content tannin sources I'm sure would do similarly in this project. So I'm going to go collect some leaves from this guy, and we'll cook them up and we'll see how they work, and then we'll look at the finished hides together. Here we have our gathered oak leaves, and this is northern red oak is the species that I'm working with. There's all sorts of different oaks, they'll give slightly different colors of extract, slightly different levels of tannin. So just wanted to be, very specific what materials I'm working with. This is northern red oak. What I'm going to do here is just very, very simple. Cook a pot of leaves. This is a 3-gallon pot. It took about 2 3/4 gallon of water and was stuffed to the top with leaves, as stuffed as I could stuff it. Okay, so about 2 3/4 gallon of leaves, and about one, if you were to grind all of this up, about 1/4 gallon, right? Now that's in fractional milk jug measurements, so not a lot of significant figures, right? But it gives you a sense of scale of what I'm working with here. So I'm going to let this water come to a boil, and then after it comes to a boil, because these leaves are fairly waxy, and I expect it's going to take a little bit of effort to cook the tannic acid out. After the water comes to a boil, I'm going to let them cook for a half hour, or until they are all completely wilted, whichever comes last, and I'll tell you what that is. It's been just a smidgen over an hour and a half. This actually took quite a long time for the leaves to break down, I think because they're so thick and waxy. I have extracted tannin from sumac leaves before, and it goes a lot quicker than these oak leaves. But you can see we're getting sort of a milky brown tea color. Anything with tannin in it, and especially anything with enough tannin to do any kind of tanning exercise in it, is going to have that sort of tea color or darker. So these leaves have definitely broken down as much as boiling is going to do. I'm going to just turn off the burner, let them sit and cool down overnight, and then tomorrow we will pour this in a bucket, add enough water that we can submerge the whole hide in it and soak it up and see what impact it has. This is our bucket of the leaf liquor. I strained it and I put in about another half a milk jug of warm water just to replace what boiled out, since this was boiling for so long. It looks good. We definitely have extracted some tannins. We've definitely extracted some saponins. When I poured it through, it was real foamy. So we're going to give this a try. So I only want about a half of the 5-gallon bucket. I don't want this all the way full. I don't want the hide to be swimming in tons and tons of soup. I just want enough liquid that it can absorb it all and still have some excess to float in. Okay? If I put too much water in here, I'm just going to really dilute the solution badly, and it might take more time or be more difficult for the tannins in there to get into the hide. So we're just going to stick this in, soak it up good. This is sufficiently mild. It's not a solution that I'm worried about getting on my hands in any way. Slosh it in, stir it up, fold it and unfold it. Make sure it all gets good and soaked. And I like that this is a fairly light color, because I want to be able to use this buckskin in combination with other buckskins that have just been smoked and haven't needed this extra treatment. So the fact that the tannin solution isn't any darker than the smoked hide is a plus in my mind. So we're just going to get this nice and saturated. And we're going to let it sit overnight. And then we'll dry and stretch the hide again, and we'll see if there's a change. I'm not going to show the drying and stretching process because I've already showed that in many of the other buckskin videos. So this is saturating pretty quickly because it's already a very treated hide. If anything, there's a little bit too much oil, because I was a little worried when I started to get the hard spots on this. I was a little worried maybe I didn't have enough of the braining solution, the oil and soap together that I use. So I re-oiled it, and it kind of was a little bit tacky feeling. So a wash in clean water to get some of that excess soap residue off of here is a good thing anyway. We know we've got plenty of that braining solution on it. I can already see it's taken some of the tannin out. It sticks to the tannin sticks to the fibers really, really quickly. And there we go. We're just going to let it sit. You can see how this solution has changed. It's completely changed color, and it's so much lighter. Now, it's never going to go completely clear. In no small part because we're washing off a lot of the little bits of solids from the smoking of this hide and past treatment. But at this point, there's so much color change. The solution is so much weaker than it was when we started. I'm pretty confident that all the tannin has been soaked up by the hide. And it's real nice. It's nice, clothy feeling, right? It's nice and porous. I could take a little bit of water and just literally squeeze it out through the hide. It's so porous. And what we hope has happened is, well, let me take a step back, right? When we're tanning one of these, when we're tanning any kind of hide, what we're trying to do is we're trying to make the hide nice and soft and supple and be able to dry in that condition, okay? So what prevents a hide from drying nice and soft and supple? Well, it's the natural glues called glycoproteins that are in the hide, grabbing the fibers, okay, grabbing the fibers and yoinking them together, right, and pulling them into a tight, stiff matrix, right, of fiber and glue, like particle board. You don't want to wear a piece of particle board. You want to wear a nice, soft, felty feeling leather. So the goal of tanning is to either destroy those glycoproteins and stick something to the protein fibers which prevents them degrading, or keep the glycoproteins from sticking to the protein and then treat them with something which prevents them from degrading, right? So when we're doing a brain tan or a fat liquor dressed tannage of any sort as the first step, that those fats and oils getting in there is acting like WD-40, right? So we have our glycoprotein trying to yoink these protein fibers together, but it can't stick, right? It can't stick and pull them in because we've got those oils in there. So when I was working on this, I oiled it and staked it and tried to get it nice and soft, and I got it a little bit soft, but it just wouldn't finish. So I smoked it. Now the smoking provides formaldehyde, and that further, like the formaldehyde gets in and denatures the protein. So there we're sticking something to the protein which prevents their degradation. And it also further blocks the glycoproteins from sticking to the proteins. Okay? But I couldn't get enough penetration of the formaldehyde from the smoke alone to get in and fully do the job. So on a second staking, it's still coming up, with lots of crunchy spots. Okay, so I tried re-oiling it, and that still I couldn't get enough penetration of the oils. So now what we're doing is, you think about this protein felt that we have. In some places it's wrapped in oil so it can't stick to anything and is preserved. In other places it's wrapped in formaldehyde from the smoke and resins from the smoke as well, and it can't get, pulled in and can't get stuck to and is preserved. But then there's clearly spots in that protein matrix where you have like naked exposed protein and undegraded glycoprotein that are linking together and pulling it in hard. So what we want to have happened is to get just enough of the tannic acid from that leaf tea to go in and penetrate. We want the tannic acid to go to like walk along the protein fiber and say, oop, you're coated in fat here, I don't need to go there. Oop, you're coated in formaldehyde, I don't need to go here. Aha! And grab this spot. And also to stick to some of the glycoproteins and prevent them from grabbing the protein. So this sort of after treatment is intended to clean up those little problem spots where the protein fibers are not coated. In commercial tanneries, they do steps like this for a lot of kinds of leather, but they will usually just use liquid formaldehyde to do this job. Okay, but we don't want to mess with large vats of nasty, difficult to dispose of chemicals, so we're going to just do it simply and use some leaf tea. Now, for the processing, all I'm going to do with this is wring it out real good, hang it up to drip dry, and then as it gets almost dry, we're going to stake it again. We're going to stake it real thoroughly. We're going to stretch it real nice, and we'll see how it dries. We'll see if this took care of our crunchy spots. So here's the results on the first one. All soaked, all dried, re-stretched back out. And you can see it is much nicer, much softer, much looser. There's still a couple of spots in it that are a little bit crunchy. First, yes, there's still a couple of spots that are a little bit crunchy. It wouldn't stop me from using this in any real way. Okay, you could use this. It's soft enough. You could use it for sturdier garments. This would be absolutely soft enough for moccasins. This would be soft enough for like leggings, anything like that. It might be a little too stiff to be comfortable as a shirt, but there's still plenty that it could be used for and come out beautifully right now with no further modification. Okay. If you really wanted to do another round, you could do another round in leaf bark, leaf tea, or you could do another round of smoking and then roll it up in a towel and try to resoften it that way. That would also totally work. But the hard spots are much, much softer, and the soft spots are still soft. It did not stiffen anything up or make it un-brain tan-like, which is really, really nice. I was a little bit worried about that because, tannic acid does make a stiffer leather. But here, in the belly skin sections where it already was fairly soft and stretchy, it's still just as soft and stretchy. It did not change anything. So that's really nice. Now, that was the oak leaves. This is the sumac leaves, prepared exactly the same way as the oak leaves. And I have a second hide to try. So let's do a before on this one. Okay, you can see how wrinkly it is, right? Those are all of the crunchy spots that are just refusing to stretch out. And this, the neck region up here, let me point this at you, is really, really hard. Okay, really, really hard and really, really stiff. But compare how wrinkly this is with all of those crunchy spots to, the smoothness and niceness of this one. This one was a little bit crunchier. The first one I did was a little bit crunchier than this one is now. So that's the change. That's how dramatic a change it was. And I'm really happy with how that turned out. So let's try our sumac leaves. Let's see how these work. Again, just doing the same thing. We're just going to stuff this in. It's still slightly warm from being cooked. comfortable bathtub temperature, right? Comfortable bathtub temperature. And we're going to put the hide in, make sure it gets soaked up real nice. Don't want to lose my leaf tea. And then every couple of hours, we'll agitate it a little bit, make sure it's getting mixed up. We will let it soak overnight. Tomorrow, we will wring it out and dry it and stretch it. And I'll give you the results on this as well. We're going to look at these finished hides here in just a second, but before we do, I just want to quick say thank you again to the person who left the comment to suggest doing this little project. And this is where being a community comes in. We can't do these things alone. We've got to work together and cooperate and collaborate, help each other out with information and resources and communication and all of those things to get those tips to keep this information flowing. One of the projects I've been working on to keep this information flowing is going back through the historic literature and looking at that time point, right, in the late 1800s, early 1900s, where a lot of these traditional skills were still very, very prominent in people's lives. None of these skills have been lost. Like, the idea of a lost skill is bad storytelling, right? There are unbroken chains of knowledge, but they have decreased in prominence, and it's become much more difficult to access that knowledge than it once was. A lot of it is still in print, and there's a lot of good tips and information there. The problem is, and the difficulty with looking at the old resources, is that back in that time period, the culture of anthropology wasn't to look at a skill and focus on that. It was to look at a people and then describe all of the skills that they are working with. So the information, if you just go and search, you know, hide tanning across the world in the 1800s, you're going to get zilch, zero, nada, right? But if you go back and look at individual cultures, you'll find a lot, because those works, those research reports, are titled something something culture, something something region. Okay, the X people of the Y area, and you can go look at those, and then each of those will have chapter headings, right? Religious practices of X people in Y area, food ways of X people in Y area, hunting and fishing techniques and tools of X people in Y area, household goods manufacture of X people in Y area, so on and so forth. And I've been looking through those for 5-6 years now, and then pulling out the relevant sections and re-indexing them by skill, the way somebody today would search for information. And those collections are available to the community on our Patreon page. It does take resources to do these projects. It does take resources to travel and find materials, or to go and purchase certain things. We live in the world in which we do, and it takes some financial resources to do those things. So I am so grateful for all of the folks who have already joined us on the Patreon page, and would love to invite you to join that community. All of the work that I've been doing is available, free download, unlimited, for all of the paid members. If you just want one piece and don't want to join as a long-term member of our Patreon, they are also available for sale as just individual downloads. But everybody who's joined, even $1 a month, has limited access to that entire repository. So I would love to invite you to join. Now, let's look at these. How did these come out? Well, I've done 3. All 3 of these hides were in the same condition when I started. They had partially softened, but there was quite a bit of residual crunchiness in all 3 of them. This one to my left is the one that I did in the sumac leaves. This one in the middle is the one that I did in the oak leaf tea. And this one to my right is the one that I didn't show on this video, but a few months ago, before getting this tip and deciding to work these other two the way that we've done here. I took this one and did the roll in a moist towel to re-soften it, and then re-stretched it without any extra chemistry or smoking or re-oiling or anything like that. So this was just a wet reworking oak leaf tea, sumac leaf tea. So let's look at them. The one that I did with, all three got a little softer, but this one, if I just kind of roll it, you can see there's hard spots that are resisting a gentle roll. Yes, I can fold them and manipulate them. They're not as crunchy as these two were when they started, but this is nowhere near being able to be used directly in a garment of any sort. Okay, I would want to do more work on this even for moccasin leather. Okay, so, you know, if I just kind of hold it straight, maybe a little bit at an angle so there's some shadow, right? You can see the crunchy spots that are not wanting to straighten out. Can you see that, beloved? Okay, so this was roll in a wet towel and then re-stretch. And I did a lot of work re-stretching this as it was drying. So we'll put that one there. Oak leaf tea, very much more soft and supple, right? It's hard to show texture on a video, right? But when I stretch it out and just let it hang freely, you can see it's hanging nice and straight, okay? And it's very soft and supple. There's a couple places that could use a little bit more work, especially right here in the neck, which is always the hardest section to soften. Like right here, there's two spots that are still a little stiff. And right on the butt pads at the rear, top of the rear hips, there's always a spot that's hard, that's a little bit hard to truly soften. But this could be used directly for many, many projects. It would be great for moccasin leather just as it is. It would be great for leggings just as it is, where you want a little more stiffness anyway. It's a little bit stiff for like making a soft shirt, but it's a heavy buckskin. It was a large buck, so this is a heavy, thick hide in any case. It probably won't ever be soft, supple shirt leather. So that's ready to go as is, or you could do a little bit more work if you wanted to soften it even more. And then this, same condition, right? If I let it hang, you can see how it's nice and wind's blowing it. How it's nice and even. There aren't crunchy spots and soft spots that are making a lot of divots. And, you know, again, if I just kind of flip it a little bit, you can see it's nice and billowy. Same condition as the oak leaf tea hide. So also, this one would be great for a project like moccasins and leggings. Right now, without any further work, if you wanted a little bit more softness across the back and across the neck, and just remember how hard this was when we put it in, this neck section. Well, now look how stretched out it is. It's a lot flatter, it's a lot straighter, and it's usable right as is. These two are ready to use for projects where you want a heavier, tougher hide. And this initial one that I did the towel softening on is going to go in a pot of bark, or sorry, a pot of leaf tea. This was a great project. I love this. I love finding these tips and getting these extra little things that we can use to troubleshoot our hide tanning process, because it's not uncommon to find a hide that fights you. And if the hide is fighting you, and you keep doing the same thing over and over and over again and it's not softening, it's important to have other things that we can use, other tools we can use and bring to bear to get it that last little step, right? And make it really the awesome, beautiful, wonderful hide that it deserves to be, okay? So thanks again to the person who left the comment that gave me this idea. I hope that putting this out gives a lot of other folks the same idea that there's this process we can use to refine and improve hides that are struggling to be their best self. I hope that you will, like and subscribe to the channel and join us on Patreon, but I most of all hope that you'll join us here next time at Old Ways Rising.